The stars stretched endlessly before the human exploration ship Endeavor, a sleek vessel built for curiosity, speed, and endurance. Captain Lena Torres stood on the bridge, her eyes scanning the shimmering display of distant suns and spinning nebulae. The hum of the engines was soothing, almost like a heartbeat, and the crew around her moved with practiced ease. They were explorers, scientists, and engineers, all human, all brimming with curiosity. "Captain," said Lieutenant Amir Singh, pointing to a blinking blip on the navigation panel. "We're entering an uncharted sector. Sensors are picking up strange energy signatures, unusual warp fields, some kind of artificial structures. Nothing in the star charts matches this." Lena's lips curled into a smile. "Perfect. That's exactly the kind of place we want to find." The humans had a reputation throughout their part of the galaxy. They were daring, sometimes reckless, and often unpredictably clever. Other species whispered about them as a curious anomaly, small, fragile creatures who had somehow mastered space travel. But what truly set humans apart was their courage and their uncanny ability to laugh at danger. As Endeavor glided deeper into the unknown, the crew noticed something remarkable. Massive starships, unlike anything humans had seen before, drifted through the sector. Their shapes were elegant yet intimidating, adorned with intricate symbols and pulsing lights. The size of these vessels alone was enough to make anyone nervous, but the humans weren't exactly the nervous type. "Whoa," said Ensign Kayla Rodriguez, her voice tinged with awe. "These ships, they're huge. And look at the patterns on them. It's like they're wearing armor designed by artists." She laughed softly. "Maybe they're a galactic fashion show we didn't get invited to." Amir frowned. "Captain, sensors indicate they are moving in a formation. They're organized, highly organized. Could be a military fleet." Lena leaned forward, fingers hovering over the controls. "Military or not, we're explorers. Let's say hello, carefully." The humans' approach to the fleet was casual. They didn't huddle behind shields or scramble for evasive maneuvers. Instead, they maneuvered their small ship with ease, weaving through the larger vessels, and waving at the scanning drones with bright holographic greetings. The first contact was not exactly what anyone expected. A massive, holographic projection appeared in front of Endeavor. The image showed an alien figure in regal uniform, its face hidden behind a mask of metal. The voice that came from the projection was formal, deep, and commanding. "Identify yourselves. State your purpose. You are trespassing in the territory of the Galactic Empire." Lena tilted her head, studying the projection. "Galactic Empire, huh? Fancy name. Tell you what, we're humans. We explore. We don't bite, usually." She laughed lightly, shrugging. "Mostly friendly." The alien's holographic eyes seemed to narrow. "Your behavior is inappropriate. Compliance is mandatory." Kayla giggled, whispering to Amir. "Mandatory? They sound like my old math teacher." "I almost feel nostalgic." Lena raised her hand. "We mean no harm. We are travelers, not conquerors. We just want to see, well, everything." The hologram flickered. "Everything? You do not understand the nature of our domain." "You will submit to inspection." "Inspection?" "Sure, but do we get snacks first? Preferably something crunchy," Lena quipped, earning muffled chuckles from the bridge crew. What the humans did not yet realize was that this was the Galactic Empire, arguably the most powerful civilization in this sector of the galaxy. Its fleets were legendary for their order, discipline, and efficiency. No vessel had ever entered their territory without permission, and certainly no one had ever treated Imperial officers with humor. The humans, however, were about to make history. Endeavor's science officer, Dr. Mei Lin, tapped her console. "Captain, they're trying to scan us. All instruments are going haywire. I think they've never dealt with our technology before. Our ships, our energy signatures. It's confusing their systems." Lena's eyes sparkled. "Good, let's give them a show." With a few deft movements, the humans projected cheerful holographic images around Endeavor. Dancing stick figures, colorful balloons, and even a virtual cat chasing a laser pointer. The holograms bounced across the vast expanse between the two fleets. The Imperial officers were silent. For a moment, Lena wondered if they understood the concept of humor. Then an officer barked orders which were transmitted in a rapid, clipped tone. "Cease this nonsense. Approach with immediate compliance. You will... The officer's voice faltered as their scanners continued to fail. Endeavor's antics were wreaking havoc with their protocols. Amir whispered to Lena, "Captain, they're flustered. We're actually confusing the most disciplined military in the galaxy with holographic cats." Lena laughed softly. "Never underestimate humans. We're excellent at improvisation." As the two sides stared at each other across the void, something remarkable happened. The humans' casual, cheerful behavior began to draw the attention of individual Empire officers who had never seen anything like it. A junior officer peeked from the command deck of a massive cruiser, trying to suppress a smile. Another officer quietly whispered to a colleague, "Are they joking?" Kayla leaned back, grinning. "If they're laughing, they're probably laughing at us, right?" "Maybe," Lena said. "But if they are, it means we're already halfway to making friends." The humans did not yet understand the vastness of the Empire's power. They did not know how strict, controlling, and efficient it was. But their natural curiosity, courage, and sense of humor made them unafraid to be themselves. In a universe of rules, hierarchy, and control, humans were a surprise, a puzzle the Empire had never learned to solve. Dr. Mei Lin, tapping her console again, reported something unexpected. "Captain, their sensors are recalibrating. They're trying to understand us. They don't know whether to treat us as a threat, a curiosity, or a joke." Lena grinned. "Good. Let's give them a little more confusion. Cue the space balloons. And, oh yes, let's add the marching penguins." The holographic penguins waddled across the sensors, some sliding on ice, others tipping over dramatically. The Empire's communication channels became a jumble of commands, alarms, and confused messages. Lena and her crew watched the chaos with amusement, careful to avoid any real harm. Hours passed. The humans moved gracefully through the fleet, laughing, joking, and documenting everything. They were careful enough not to provoke attacks, but bold enough to make the Empire pause. Every interaction showed the humans' strengths: creativity, courage, and adaptability. Finally, the holographic projection of the Imperial officer returned. This time the tone was slightly different, less formal, almost uncertain. "You are unlike any species we have encountered. Your behavior is incomprehensible." Lena leaned forward, smiling warmly. "That's kind of our specialty." The bridge erupted in quiet laughter. Even Amir, usually reserved, shook his head in disbelief. "We actually did it," he muttered. "We confused the Galactic Empire." Kayla raised an eyebrow. "Confused? Maybe entertained is a better word, or shocked into silence by the sheer audacity of humans." Lena chuckled. "Let's just say we made an impression. That's all that matters today." As Endeavor continued its journey deeper into the unknown sector, the stars sparkled as if celebrating human audacity. The crew knew that their adventure was only beginning. They had stumbled upon a civilization more powerful than any they had known. But humans had a gift that no army, fleet, or council could replicate: laughter, curiosity, and courage. And in that moment, the universe seemed just a little bigger, brighter, and far more interesting. Endeavor sailed onward, ready for whatever mysteries and mischief lay ahead. The human ship Endeavor drifted in the glittering void of the Empire's territory, its hull gleaming in the light of distant stars. Captain Lena Torres leaned against the bridge console, watching her crew move with the quiet efficiency that only humans seemed capable of. They were explorers, scientists, and engineers, yet in this moment, they were also diplomats or perhaps troublemakers, depending on who was observing. "Captain," said Ensign Kayla Rodriguez, tapping her tablet, "I think they're still trying to understand us. Their communication channels are full of static or maybe confusion. Whatever it is, it's working in our favor." Lena smiled. "Good. Let's keep it that way. We don't want to make enemies, but we don't want to be boring either." The humans had no idea that their lighthearted antics had already reached the ears of the Empire's high command. Reports poured in. Small, unpredictable creatures in a single ship, displaying behavior that the Empire's most advanced algorithms could not categorize. The fleet's officers, trained to respond with strict protocol, were flustered. Nothing in their history had prepared them for humor as a form of defiance or diplomacy. On the Endeavor, the crew had begun to explore the Empire's fleet more closely. They used drones to scan the massive ships, photographing alien decorations, energy conduits, and propulsion systems. Instead of fear, they felt fascination. The Empire's ships were impressive, huge, elegant, and clearly engineered for efficiency and power. but they lacked warmth. Humans saw beauty and functionality, and they also saw opportunities for a little harmless fun. Dr. Mei Lin, the ship's science officer, piped up from her console. "Captain, the Empire's sensors are very precise, but our technology, well, it's confusing them. Every time we move, their scans report anomalies. I think they're actually fascinated or maybe frustrated." "Possibly both," Lena laughed. "Good. Confusion is a great icebreaker." She tapped her communicator. "Kayla, let's send another friendly signal." Something non-threatening. Maybe a holographic welcome banner? Kayla's fingers flew over the controls, projecting a large, colorful, "Welcome, friends," in orbit of the closest Imperial cruiser. The banner shimmered, accompanied by cheerful musical tones. The humans giggled as they watched the holographic display ripple across the void. On the Imperial ship, officers stared at the projection in disbelief. Commander Vexel, a tall, sharp-eyed alien who prided himself on absolute control, banged his clawed hand on the console. "What is this nonsense? Who does this? Why are they laughing? Answer me." Lieutenant Creel, his second-in-command, hesitated. "Sir, I think they are intentionally using joy as a tactic." Vexel froze. "Joy, a weapon? That is absurd." But even as he barked orders to halt the humans' antics, another holographic projection appeared. This time, it was a small penguin wearing a tiny astronaut helmet, waddling across the scanners. Vexel's eyes widened. They are mocking us?" Meanwhile, on the Endeavor, Lena leaned back in her chair, smiling. "Not mocking, just showing them we mean no harm. A little humor goes a long way." Kayla grinned. "Sure, Captain. But do you think they get it? Or are they just broken inside?" "Both," Lena said calmly. "Somewhere in the middle." As the day progressed, the humans began to understand the Empire better. Its culture was strict and hierarchical, every officer following rules without question. Emotions were controlled, humor was discouraged, and creativity was channeled only toward military efficiency. For humans, who thrived on curiosity and spontaneity, this was strange and fascinating. Amir Singh, the ship's navigator, pointed to a cluster of Empire ships. "Captain, look at that formation. Perfect squares, precise angles. They must practice this constantly. It's beautiful in its own way." Lena nodded. "Yes, but it's also rigid. And where there is rigidity, there's room for a little flexibility." Flexibility, in the hands of humans, meant playful exploration. They sent small drones weaving through the Empire's fleet, projecting harmless holograms of floating stars and miniature solar systems. The Imperial ships tried to intercept them, but every attempt failed. The humans' unpredictability was a puzzle the Empire could not solve. On one of the larger Imperial cruisers, a junior officer named Tikrel whispered to his neighbor, "Do they enjoy this? Are they laughing at us?" His colleague shook his head. "I don't know, but somehow I want to smile too." It was the first crack in the Empire's disciplined facade. Humans, with nothing but curiosity and humor, were planting seeds of doubt and perhaps wonder in the minds of some of the Empire's officers. Back on the Endeavor, Lena decided to push the envelope just a little further. "All right, crew. Let's give them a demonstration of Earth's best inventions. Holographic cats, dancing lights, and, the classic moonwalk. Let's see how they handle that." The bridge erupted in laughter as Kayla executed the holographic display. Cats danced across the void, bouncing between ships while tiny figures performed the moonwalk across the sensors. The Empire's officers scrambled, their communications filled with urgent commands and frustration. Dr. Mei Lin observed quietly, "Captain, this is remarkable. They're actually trying to maintain order, but they can't. Our humor is disrupting their systems and their minds." Lena smiled. "Exactly. But always remember we do this carefully, no harm. Just curiosity, fun, and maybe a little bit of chaos." Even as the humans played, they remained aware of the potential danger. One wrong move could provoke the Empire's wrath. But so far their courage, wit, and unpredictability had kept them safe. Hours passed, and the humans began to interact with smaller Imperial vessels in more subtle ways. They projected messages of friendship, floating lights, and musical tones designed to amuse rather than alarm. Imperial officers, though confused, started to notice a pattern. Humans were intelligent, capable, and unafraid, but they were not violent. On the bridge of an Imperial cruiser, Commander Vexel fumed. How is it possible? They have no weapons, no serious threat. Yet they disturb everything. How do they do this? Lieutenant Creel hesitated. Perhaps by being human? Vexil scoffed. Human? I have heard of your species. Fragile, chaotic, unpredictable. But I never thought this. Meanwhile, Lena and her crew began cataloging the Empire's technology, art, and customs. They marveled at the intricate designs of the ships, the precision of the formations, and the sheer scale of the Empire's fleet. Yet at every turn, they found ways to leave a touch of humanity, a cheerful hologram here, a witty message there. As the day drew to a close, the humans gathered in the common area of endeavor. The crew laughed, shared stories, and reflected on the encounter. You know, Kayla said, sipping a drink, I think we're actually making friends, or at least interesting acquaintances. Who knew the Galactic Empire could be this fun to tease? Amir shook his head, smiling. It's not teasing. It's showing them another way to see the universe. One with curiosity, laughter, and maybe a little chaos. They just don't know it yet. Lena looked out at the stars, thoughtful. This is only the beginning. We've stumbled into a vast, powerful civilization, but humans, we're different. We adapt, we laugh, and sometimes that's more powerful than any weapon. As Endeavor continued to drift through the Empire's sector, the humans had unknowingly begun to change it. Small smiles flickered on the faces of Imperial officers. Quiet moments of wonder replaced rigid routine, and somewhere in the galaxy, the first seeds of a culture clash and perhaps friendship were taking root. The humans were explorers, adventurers, and diplomats in the most unexpected way by being themselves. And as they moved onward, laughter echoed through the void, carrying the unmistakable message that humanity could face the greatest powers of the galaxy and still find joy in the journey. Endeavor sailed on, leaving behind a trail of wonder, confusion, and subtle inspiration. The crew knew the Empire was vast and powerful, but they also knew something even stronger. The human spirit was unbreakable, clever, and impossible to predict, and that, they realized, might just be enough. The human ship Endeavor glided silently through the heart of the Empire's territory, a small vessel among the titanic cruisers and military armadas of a civilization that had ruled countless star systems. The crew moved with ease, their laughter and curiosity a stark contrast to the disciplined precision of the Imperial fleet around them. What had started as a cautious exploration had turned into something far more extraordinary. Humans were not only surviving but subtly influencing the Empire in ways no one had predicted, Captain, said Dr. Maylin, scanning the energy readings from a nearby Imperial cruiser. I think some of the Empire officers are observing us, quietly, discreetly. They're not trying to attack or communicate directly. It's almost like they're curious. Lena Torres leaned back in her chair, a small smile playing on her lips. Curiosity is good. That's the first step toward understanding, and maybe, just maybe, friendship. The humans had begun to notice the cracks in the Empire's rigid structure. Not all officers were fanatically disciplined. Some, especially younger or lower-ranking ones, were secretly amused by the humans' antics. One such officer, a mid-level analyst named Tekrell, had been quietly following Endeavor for hours. He hid behind bulkheads, peeking at the humans' holographic displays and improvisational maneuvers. The dancing cats, floating balloons, and moonwalking figures had disturbed him at first, but slowly, he found himself smiling. They're different, Tekrell whispered to a fellow officer who frowned. Different? They're chaotic, reckless, and loud. Yes, Tekrell admitted, but somehow, they are brave and happy. That matters, maybe more than we realize. Back on Endeavor, Lena had noticed a pattern in the Empire's reactions. The higher-ranking officers remained formal and stern, but some of the mid-tier officers were starting to engage in subtle ways, scanning the humans less aggressively, allowing them to pass without interference, even attempting to replicate small gestures of humor. Captain, said Kayla Rodriguez, pointing to a small Imperial ship following them at a distance. Look, that one's just watching, not chasing, not threatening. Just watching. I think it wants to understand us. Good, Lena said. That's our opening. Sometimes all it takes is a smile, or in our case, a little light show to begin a conversation. The humans decided to test the waters carefully. Using drones, they projected miniature images of Earth animals and landmarks near the observing Imperial ship. Holographic lions roared gently, rivers flowed in mid-space, and miniature rainstorms danced on the ship's shields. The Imperial ship did not respond aggressively. Instead, its sensors lingered, analyzing and perhaps in a very alien way appreciating the display. Inside the observing Imperial ship, Tekrell's heart raced. "What are they doing?" he murmured. Why does it feel beautiful?" The officer next to him, Krella, tilted her head. "They are showing us their world, and maybe their hearts." Tekrell frowned, unsettled by the thought. The Empire had never encouraged personal expression or emotional exploration. Officers were trained to suppress curiosity that distracted from duty. Yet here was a tiny ship of humans, showing something powerful without violence, without orders, without fear. Back on Endeavor, Lena and her crew were unaware of the impact they were having. They continued their explorations, documenting Imperial technology, learning the rhythms of the fleet and testing small gestures of goodwill. At one point, they projected a holographic Earth garden on the surface of a nearby moon, complete with flowers, trees, and birds. It was a peaceful display, and though small, it captured the attention of several Imperial officers who had never seen such beauty outside of strict, functional art. "Captain," Dr. Maylin said, adjusting the projections, "some of the Imperial officers are starting to mirror our gestures. Small things, lighting displays, arranging formations with subtle creativity. It's faint, but it's happening," Lena smiled. "Excellent. Let's keep it subtle. We're not here to take over, they're too powerful. But we can plant ideas. Small ideas grow over time." One evening, as Endeavor drifted near a massive orbital station, a small Imperial vessel approached with no signs of aggression. Lena regarded it cautiously, but there was a sense of diplomacy in its approach rather than hostility. A holographic projection appeared, this time showing a human-like figure in Imperial uniform bowing slightly. "This is unusual," Kayla said. "They're inviting communication. Not orders, not demands, invitation." Lena leaned forward, tapping her console. "Let's accept. Calm, polite, friendly, and let's keep a smile ready. You never know when humor will open a door." The holographic figure introduced herself as Lieutenant Mira, an officer who had secretly been observing the humans. She spoke carefully, her voice formal but tinged with curiosity. "You are different from other species we have encountered," she said. "Your behavior is unpredictable yet not hostile. You approach our fleet with humor, with care." "Why?" Lena smiled. "Because humans are curious. We explore, we laugh, we learn, and we believe that understanding and friendship are better than fear and control." Mira paused. "Understanding, friendship. We were not trained for such concepts in our interactions with outsiders. And maybe that's the problem," Lena said. "The universe is big. Strange things happen. Sometimes the strongest power is kindness, curiosity, and creativity." This exchange marked the beginning of an unusual alliance. Lieutenant Mira secretly began to share information with the humans, safe routes through Imperial patrols, insights into fleet operations, and tips on which officers were more open to unconventional ideas. In return, humans shared knowledge of their own technology, astronomy, and Earth culture, but always carefully, ensuring that nothing could be used as a weapon. The alliance grew quietly, hidden from the Empire's high command. The humans and a few sympathetic officers like Tekrell and Mira started a subtle cultural exchange. Holographic displays, shared stories, and small experiments in creativity. Imperial officers who had been rigid and serious for decades began to see another way to perceive the universe, through curiosity and laughter. "Captain," Kayla whispered during one of these exchanges, "we're actually influencing them. Not with force, not with politics, but with friendship and humor." "That's amazing," Lena nodded. "It's exactly what humans do best. We adapt, we connect, we inspire, and sometimes we do it without even trying." Despite the success, the humans remained cautious. The Empire was vast and powerful. A single mistake could turn this delicate progress into conflict. But Lena trusted her crew, their creativity, and their understanding of human nature. One day, a minor incident tested their alliance. A smaller Imperial vessel misinterpreted a holographic display as a threat and prepared to fire. Before any weapons could be used, Lieutenant Mera intervened, clarifying the humans' intentions. The incident ended in laughter rather than disaster, and the humans even used the moment to create a playful display, projecting a holographic referee waving a flag and holding a tiny whistle. The Empire's junior officers who witnessed the event chuckled quietly, realizing that humans could handle danger with cleverness and calm. Dr. Mei Lin observed, "Captain, this is remarkable. We're not just exploring. We're showing them a new way to interact with the universe, and they're learning from us." Secretly, of course, Lena's eyes sparkled. Exactly. This is the heart of being human. Courage, humor, curiosity. Not weapons, not force, just being ourselves. That can change even the most disciplined empire. As the days passed, Endeavor moved through the Empire's sector, leaving subtle traces of humanity wherever it went. Small displays of creativity, laughter, and curiosity inspired the officers who interacted with them. For the humans, it was another adventure. For the Empire, it was the start of a quiet revolution in perception, an understanding that there was more to power than rules and fleets. One night, Lena stood on the observation deck, looking at the stars. "This is only the beginning," she said softly. "We stumbled into an empire that believes strength comes from control. But humans, we know strength comes from courage, connection, and a little joy, and we're going to show them that one small step at a time." The crew gathered around, smiling, sharing stories and laughter. The bonds between them were strong, and the subtle influence they had begun to have on the Empire strengthened their resolve. Endeavor continued its journey, carrying humans who were explorers, diplomats, and ambassadors of joy into the vast unknown. And somewhere in the galaxy, small hearts of the Empire began to open, proving that even the most disciplined civilizations could learn from the unpredictable, clever, and fearless humans. In this strange corner of space, an unlikely alliance was born, a bridge between order and chaos, discipline and curiosity, seriousness and laughter. And it all began with humans being simply human. The human ship Endeavor drifted quietly through the glowing expanse of the Galactic Empire's territory, its crew unaware that their next action would create a galaxy-wide spectacle. Captain Lena Torres stood on the bridge, watching the stars streak by. She had noticed small, subtle changes in the Imperial fleet. Officers were behaving more cautiously, some even observing the humans with curiosity rather than suspicion. "This is going well," Lena said to her crew. "We've made friends, or at least intrigued them. But we have to stay careful. One wrong move and all this could turn into trouble." Lieutenant Amir Singh nodded. "Understood, Captain. But I think they're starting to enjoy our company. Or at least they're less angry than they should be." "Exactly," Lena said, smiling. "And sometimes humans have a way of turning accidents into opportunities. Remember that." The crew continued their usual routines, scanning Imperial technology, documenting alien species, and experimenting with harmless holographic displays. Yet even their small pranks and light-hearted experiments had begun to spread joy or confusion through the fleet. Dancing lights, holographic animals, and miniature space gardens had left Imperial officers whispering to one another, wondering why such small beings could wield so much influence without aggression. One morning, the crew of Endeavor awoke to a routine that would become anything but routine. A massive Imperial parade was scheduled in a nearby sector, celebrating the anniversary of the Empire's founding. Tens of ships were moving in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming, engines synchronized to produce a precise visual display. Lena had received the information from Lieutenant Mera, their secret ally within the Empire. "Captain," Mera had warned, "do not approach the parade. It is highly ceremonial, and any interference could be seen as a provocation." Lena smiled wryly. "Of course, Mera. We won't interfere. We'll just observe quietly." But humans were not known for quiet observation. And as Endeavor approached the sector, one of Kayla's drones accidentally triggered a holographic display meant for the crew's entertainment. Miniature Earth animals dancing across the sensors, tiny fireworks, and colorful balloons drifting through the void. The holograms spread beyond the ship's shields, reaching the parade fleet. Imperial officers gasped as their precise formations were interrupted by twirling holographic penguins, jumping dolphins and fireworks that seemed to explode in mid-space. The ceremonial display, carefully orchestrated for months, was now accompanied by floating earth gardens and holographic moonwalkers. "Captain," Amir said, eyes wide. They're noticing us." Lena held back a laugh. "Yes? And it's beautiful. Let's see how they handle a little human creativity." Commander Vexil, observing from his flagship, bellowed orders in frustration. "Cease that nonsense immediately. Stop them. Halt the intrusion. Fire if necessary." Lieutenant Mara appeared holographically on the Endeavor's console. "Captain, please, they do not understand your intent. You must be careful." "We are careful," Lena replied, grinning. "No one is in danger, just a little entertainment." The humans, careful to avoid harm, continued projecting, holograms adjusting brightness and motion to avoid collisions with Imperial ships. The effect was stunning. A massive fleet, once perfectly rigid and serious, now twinkled with light, animals, and color. Junior officers across multiple ships whispered to one another, pointing out their first smiles in years. "This is incredible," whispered Tikrell, unable to hide his fascination. "They are fearless and joyful, and somehow brilliant." Even Commander Vexil, though furious, could not maintain his composure entirely. He growled and clenched his claws, but a flicker of doubt crossed his mind. Could power alone command respect and loyalty? Or could humans with nothing but curiosity and joy inspire something stronger? Back on the Endeavor, Lena's crew had turned the moment into a demonstration of human ingenuity. They synchronized holographic lights to move with the Imperial formation, creating patterns that resembled constellations, animals, and abstract art. The humans laughed and cheered quietly among themselves, delighted by their improvisation. Dr. Mei Lin, observing the response, said, "Captain, this is unprecedented. The fleet's morale is visibly affected. Officers are enjoying it, secretly, I think. Even some of the mid-level officers are imitating our gestures with their own holograms." Kayla tilted her head, smiling. "It's like teaching them to play again, like giving a toy to a serious adult who's forgotten how to smile." Lena nodded. "Exactly. Play is powerful, and humans, we play best under pressure." The incident continued for hours, though no real damage occurred. The humans remained cautious, careful to respect the Empire's ships while letting their creativity shine. Every attempt by the Imperial fleet to regain strict order was gently thwarted by a new holographic trick: a tiny Earth rainbow floating, origami cranes, or a holographic waterfall cascading over a cruiser's hull. Some of the Empire's junior officers began to whisper quietly among themselves, taking risks by mimicking small elements of the humans' display. These small acts, seemingly insignificant, planted the seeds of a subtle cultural shift within the Empire, a realization that creativity, joy, and ingenuity could exist even in a universe ruled by discipline and order. This changes everything," whispered Tikrell to Krella. I never thought we could see something like this. We've trained for control, obedience, everything. But these humans, they show us another way." Krella frowned thoughtfully. "It's dangerous, but also inspiring. I feel lighter." As the parade ended, the Empire's High Command convened to assess the situation. Reports poured in. Humans had entered the sector, disrupted ceremonial formations, yet caused no harm. Some officers had even begun experimenting with creative holograms and displays, inspired by the humans' courage and humor. Commander Vexil's voice echoed through the chamber. "They are small. They are unarmed. Yet they have accomplished something no fleet, no weapon, no law could. They have influenced our officers." Lieutenant Mara, present in secret, nodded quietly. "Yes, Commander. They are human, and their strength lies not in power, but in their spirit." Meanwhile, Endeavor prepared to leave the sector, its mission of observation and subtle influence accomplished. Lena gathered her crew on the bridge, smiling proudly. "You did it," she said softly. We turned a potential disaster into an opportunity. We didn't fight. We didn't threaten. We just were ourselves. And sometimes, that's enough to change minds and hearts. Kayla laughed. And some penguins. Let's not forget the penguins. Amir shook his head, smiling. Captain, do you realize what we just did? We survived the most disciplined fleet in the galaxy, and we made them laugh. Lena nodded. Yes, and that is the essence of being human. Courage, curiosity, humor. Our tools are simple, but they are powerful. And the universe notices. As Endeavor left the parade sector, the crew reflected on what had happened. They had not conquered or defeated the Empire. Instead, they had sparked joy, curiosity, and creativity in a civilization known for its rigidity. Their actions were small in scale but monumental in impact. Lieutenant Mara watched from the shadows of her cruiser, smiling softly. Perhaps there is hope for the Empire yet, she whispered. If these humans can show us the strength of joy, maybe we can learn to balance discipline with curiosity. The crew of Endeavor celebrated quietly, knowing that the galaxy had just witnessed a remarkable event. Humans had demonstrated that courage and humor could achieve what weapons and orders could not. The story of their antics would ripple through the Empire, inspiring officers and citizens alike to consider a new way of seeing the universe. Lena looked out at the stars, feeling the thrill of adventure and the warmth of accomplishment. We are humans, she said softly. We stumble into the unknown, we laugh, we explore, and we leave a mark. Not with force, but with our spirit. And sometimes, that is more powerful than any army. The crew cheered, a small, joyful chorus echoing through the ship. And somewhere, far across the fleet, officers of the Galactic Empire could not help but smile, remembering the dancing penguins, the floating fireworks, and the humans who had dared to be themselves. Endeavor sailed onward, carrying its crew into deeper space, their mission not just to explore but to inspire. One laugh, one curious act, one human moment at a time. The stars stretched endlessly before the human ship Endeavor, its sleek hull glinting in the pale light of distant suns. Captain Lena Torres stood on the bridge looking out at the vastness of space. The crew had just left the Imperial Parade sector, an event that would later be remembered in whispers, stories, and reports across the Galactic Empire. Though no one had called it a battle, it had been a victory, a triumph of spirit, courage, and human ingenuity. Captain, said Lieutenant Amir Singh, adjusting the navigation console, I've just finished reviewing the sensor logs from the parade sector. It's incredible. No weapons were fired, no ships damaged, yet our actions have already left a mark on the Empire. Lena smiled, her gaze still on the stars. That's what humans do. We don't always conquer with power. Sometimes we conquer with curiosity, courage, and a little bit of humor. Kayla Rodriguez leaned back in her chair, grinning. And penguins. Let's not forget the penguins, Lena laughed softly. Yes, penguins included. The crew had learned much from their time within the Empire. They had discovered that the most disciplined civilizations were not unshakable. They were simply rigid. And when humans, unpredictable, daring, and playful, entered their midst, they could inspire change without a single shot fired. On the observation deck, Dr. Mei Lin cataloged the reactions of Imperial officers who had been indirectly influenced by the humans. Captain, junior officers across multiple fleets are reporting changes in morale. Some are experimenting with small creative gestures. They're laughing quietly. They're thinking differently, all because of our simple, harmless actions. Lena nodded. That's exactly what we hoped for. We didn't want to intimidate them. We wanted to show them another way to approach life, work, and the universe. The humans' impact went beyond morale. Within the Empire, Lieutenant Mara and Officer Takrell quietly shared observations with like-minded colleagues. They encouraged creative problem-solving, subtle acts of kindness, and curiosity-driven experiments, concepts that were nearly forbidden before the humans arrived. The seeds planted by Endeavor's crew had begun to grow. Captain, Kayla said, her tone more serious than usual, do you think they'll remember us? The Empire? Lena considered this. They will. Perhaps not immediately and not all at once. But small changes spread quickly, especially when they come from something unexpected. The Empire will never be the same again. Some officers will carry this lesson with them quietly, secretly, and some may even share it openly when the time comes. As the humans move deeper into unexplored space, their alliance with sympathetic officers like Mera and Tekrel allowed them to navigate the Empire's vast territories safely. They explored abandoned stations, cataloged alien technologies, and observed unique worlds, all while leaving subtle signs of human creativity. Holographic gardens, miniature Earth animals, playful light displays, and carefully crafted messages of curiosity and friendship. Captain, Dr. Mei Lin said one day, scanning the readings from a distant moon, we are seeing patterns in how the Empire's fleets respond to humans. Even without direct interaction, their behavior has changed. They are more cautious, yes, but also more open to small acts of unpredictability. They are learning, Lena smiled. And learning is the greatest gift humans can leave. Not weapons, not threats, not power, but knowledge, curiosity, and the courage to act differently. That's what makes us strong. The crew laughed and joked quietly, their bond strengthened by shared adventure and success. Yet Lena knew this was more than fun and games. They had demonstrated something profound, that humanity's greatest strengths were not physical but moral and mental. Courage, creativity, and a sense of humor could challenge the mightiest empires. Even as they explored, the humans remained humble. They understood that the Empire was vast and that their influence, though significant, was small in comparison. But small influence, carefully and wisely applied, could ripple outward to create change that no weapon could enforce. One day, as Endeavor approached the edge of the Imperial sector, a holographic message appeared on the main console. It was Lieutenant Mera. Captain Torres, she said, her voice steady. We wish you well. You have taught us much. Even if the High Command never knows your name, the lessons will remain. We hope your journey continues safely, and that humans never stop being themselves. Lena nodded, touched by the message. Thank you, Mera. And thank you for your courage as well. Humans believe in the power of curiosity, friendship, and laughter. You have seen its strength firsthand. Keep it with you. As the message ended, the crew reflected on the journey. They had entered a vast, powerful civilization and left it subtly changed, not through force or politics, but by being human. Their actions had inspired joy, creativity, and curiosity. They had turned fear into fascination, rigidity into wonder, and discipline into quiet admiration. Amir Singh tapped the navigation panel. Captain, our charts show a new sector ahead. Completely unexplored. Who knows what awaits us there? Lena smiled, excitement bright in her eyes. Exactly. That's the point. Humans explore. Humans learn. Humans laugh. And humans leave a mark, even in places where they are smallest, weakest, or most unexpected. Kayla leaned forward, grinning. Captain, I vote we take a small detour to see if we can find more penguins. Lena laughed, shaking her head. Always penguins, Kayla, but yes, why not? Curiosity first, always. That's how we survive, and that's how we thrive. The crew laughed with her, their voices echoing through the ship. Outside, the stars glittered, a vast canvas for exploration, discovery, and adventure. Endeavor sailed onward, its small human crew carrying the greatest gift of all, the human spirit. Far across the Empire, whispers began to spread. Junior officers spoke quietly of the humans who had entered their sector and shown them that courage, curiosity, and laughter could create change without a single battle. Mid-level commanders experimented with small acts of creativity. Even some high-ranking officers, though outwardly stern, could not hide a flicker of admiration. And somewhere, in the shadows of the Imperial High Command, Lieutenant Mera smiled. They were humans, she whispered. And that is enough. The story of the humans' journey through the Empire would be remembered, not as a war or conquest, but as a lesson in ingenuity, spirit, and joy. They had demonstrated that true strength was not measured by weapons or fleets, but by courage, creativity, and the willingness to embrace the unknown with a smile. Lena gathered her crew on the observation deck one final time before leaving the Empire's territory. Look at this, she said, gesturing toward the stars. All of this is waiting for us. New worlds, new civilizations, new adventures. And we will meet them as humans, curious, courageous, and unafraid to laugh. Dr. Mei Lin nodded. Captain, do you think we'll ever encounter another civilization like the Empire? Lena smiled, her eyes twinkling. Perhaps. But even if we do, humans have something no algorithm, no weapon, no fleet can match. The ability to think, to feel, and to be themselves. That is our greatest power. The crew laughed softly, remembering the penguins, the dancing lights, and the joy they had shared with an entire civilization. They had come as explorers and scientists, but they had also become ambassadors of humanity, symbols of what it meant to be clever, brave, and full of life. As Endeavour slipped into the uncharted regions of space, the human crew knew one thing for certain: the universe was vast, full of unknown wonders and waiting for those brave enough to explore it. And wherever humans went, they carried laughter, curiosity, and courage, tools more powerful than any weapon, capable of inspiring even the most disciplined civilizations. And so humanity won, not with force, not with conquest, but by simply being human. They left behind a galaxy subtly, quietly changed, proving once again that courage, curiosity, and humor could achieve what power alone never could. Endeavour sailed onward, stars glimmering ahead, carrying humans toward new adventures, new discoveries, and new opportunities to be themselves. And the galaxy, vast and infinite, seemed just a little brighter, a little more alive, because humans had been there,